What reforms to our tax system do you believe are needed?
I think it needs to be complete overhauled altogether. We have a progressive tax system right now, which gradually taxes you more and more as you earn more, until you make so much that you can hire people to find loopholes in the tax system, so you don't pay anything at all. It's unfair to the 47% of Americans who are paying taxes because they're paying way too much. It's unfair to the 53% of Americans who are not paying any taxes because you have no stake in the future. I think we need to get rid of the progressive system altogether and go to an infinitely more fair consumption-based system. And I think that for a couple of reasons. First of all, everybody who's paying taxes right now will see a reduction in their overall tax load by doing so. You have 100% of your income every month, so you don't have anything taken out. You pay taxes only on the economic activity you create in the economy. And it gets everybody involved. So I like to use this example, and I apologize, she's an easy target. But Paris Hilton. She does not make any money. She gets most of her money coming through trusts that are largely income tax exempt. But man, does she spend money. And if every time she swiped her credit card or laid out a greenback to buy a pink Bentley that sits in her her driveway in Beverly Hills right now, if she was taxed on that, I'm absolutely convinced that the tax revenue she generated right there alone would fund the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff. She's a heavy spender. And there are plenty of people like that who right now are not contributing to the tax rolls. However, we all are. And that's inherently unfair to all of the rest of Americans who are burdening more, shouldering more than their share of the burden. So a consumption-based tax system would ultimately do two other very beneficial things, I think. First of all, it would significantly reduce, if not completely get rid of, the IRS. You guys are probably not very happy with that, I recognize. Yes. And,
are you dreaming?
No, I'm not dreaming at all. And then the second huge advantage to this, which should make every American excited, is that in this government of the people, by the people, for the people, we're supposed to be in charge. We're supposed to be calling the shots. Yeah. What's the one thing the government runs on? Money. They're always looking for ways to find more tax dollars to pull out of our pockets. In a consumption-based tax system, you control the purse strings. So if the government's doing something you disagree with, or you don't like, or you don't believe in, all you have to do is just not buy another pen, or a new phone, or a new pair of shoes. Things you don't need. Life's necessities won't be taxed, because that would put an undue burden on the impoverished, right? Food, clothing, shelter. That wouldn't be taxed. But everything else that we buy would. So if you don't like what the government's doing, you just cut back on your spending. Unlike what the government does, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what we want or what we like, they just continue to spend. Well, if you choke off the money supply and make it law that you can't increase the level of taxation, the percentage, and they can't increase the debt ratio or the credit limit that they have, then you have successfully controlled your government. And that's what we need to do. That's what I think needs to be done.
So you would support a repeal of the 16th Amendment of the personal income tax?
Well, okay. It's a very interesting question, and I have to be very honest. I don't like messing with the Constitution as it is, right? So I understand the 16th Amendment says, that we're moving from the tax system we have now into an income tax scenario.
From a portion or non-a portion.
Right, exactly. And so the 16th Amendment essentially makes income tax constitutional. I don't know if we need to repeal the amendment, but we can make a law that amends it, or a law that clearly defines how that taxation is actually done. So a full repeal of any amendment is not something I'm all that excited about.
What about prohibition?
I understand, same thing. I don't. The document is not a living document. All right, it's a set in stone set of laws that we're supposed to work off of. I don't want to mess with it. I want to live within it. And I think that we can still live within it while still having the 16th Amendment in there without fully recalling it and still have a successful, law-abiding, enforceable, different tax code that does not involve taxing your income.
Just on that same topic, and we'll get off on this, but doesn't that give the temptation then for all the legislators and to wait to repeal it would prevent that from ever happening?
It does, but here's the thing. We need to elect people that we can trust without implicitly trusting the government, which we should never do, right? But it's about time we start sending people to Washington who recognize what the right thing to do is, who take the harder right over the easier wrong, and they're never content with a half-truth when the whole truth in any situation can be won. I think it's time that we expect a little bit more of the people we send to Washington, or Madison, or wherever. And if we send the right people there, we don't need to worry about balanced budget amendments to the Constitution or other laws that are going to define what they have to do. They're going to do it because they know what the right thing to do is. You all do. Elect the right people.
Any follow-up?
Sir.
To me, if you don't remove that 16th Amendment, it'd be like me putting a loaded gun on a dining room table and saying, I trust everybody who comes into this house, whether young or small, will be responsible not to touch that gun. As long as you leave it there, it's a threat.
It is. It is. I recognize that. But again, I respect the Constitution as it stands right now, at this very moment. I'm wary about amending it.
But for so long in our country's history, it wasn't even there.
Right? Exactly.
So if we did without it before, why can't we do without it again?
There's no doubt that we can. There's no doubt that we can. And ultimately, if the voters of Wisconsin say, Dave, repeal the 16th Amendment, I will be happy to fight for that. But as things stand right now, I'm a constitutional purist. Right? Like I said, I don't think it's a very difficult document to understand. I've read it. I'm comfortable with it. And I still think we can work within the frames of the Constitution and not have to repeal that, but still have a progressive tax system removal and an introduction of a consumption-based tax.
How do you enforce the 16th Amendment with the IRS currently and not violate the 4th Amendment?
I'm sorry,
How do you enforce?
How does the IRS enforce the 16th Amendment now without violating the 4th Amendment? Where you
I don't think it does. I don't think it does.
Well, let me assist that. If you are to be secure in your person and effects, and you have to give full disclosure of all your assets, all of your money, everything that you've done, all your transactions, is that not being secure?
You don't report to the IRS. If you have a consumption-based tax system,
No, I'm talking about
you
the
don't
16th Amendment. Currently
okay.
as it is. Is it a violation?
Yeah, right. So okay, we're talking about two different things then.
Well, no, it's the same thing.
No, I know. I agree with you. I believe that there is a violation of the 4th Amendment with the way the 16th Amendment is being enforced.
So why would we leave it in place?
Because it's part of the Constitution.
But it's a contradiction.
Okay, well, you don't. No one here needs their appendix. Do we just remove everyone's appendix?
Well, I think it's a lot different.
Oh, it's not.
Your appendix isn't going to overstep its bounds and abuse it.
Sure will.
Okay.
What if it ruptures?
That's fine. The 16th
Mine
Amendment.
did.
The 16th Amendment is ruptured. It's abusing us. So shouldn't we remove it?
If that is what the Wisconsin voters feel, I'll be happy to fight.
I'm just going to take a poll. How many think we should get rid of it? Dave, we want you to get rid of it if you're elected.
Like I was saying, I'll be happy to remove the 16th Amendment from the Constitution. Okay, fine.
Well, we'll take it in.